The story we were told began with a forbidden fruit, but that was not the first sin. The first sin began not with desire, but with awareness. Now let us go to the moment it all began, the moment the light first perceived its own shadow. Time was not yet flowing, darkness was not yet even dark, and in that infinite silence, the first breath echoed. This breath was the first spark cast into the heart of the universe. The light became self-aware, and with that awareness, the fall began. Because in the destiny of every light, there is a shadow, and every shadow is an echo of a knowing. In that age, the beings who lived at the gates of heaven were called the Watchers, Bene Elohim, the children of God. They were the angels who guarded the laws of the universe, who governed the rhythm of light. For millennia they lived in the highest vault of heaven. Each was the guardian of a star. Each was a note in the cosmos, a frequency, a vibration. Their names were whispered on the wind. Semjaza, the bearer of knowledge. Azazel, the master of metals and weapons. Sariel, the guardian of the stars. Ramiel, the shepherd of souls. But one day, they looked down. The sky became too narrow for them. Below, on earth, a new species was walking, made of mud, but with a heart that beat with light. Man. And in that moment, the most ancient law of the divine order was shaken, because man carried something even the gods had forgotten: freedom. As the Watchers gazed upon those humans, a strange echo stirred within them. That echo was longing, because they wanted to touch the one thing even God had not touched: the flesh. And so, the fall began, not with a war, but with a desire. Semjaza called out to the other Watchers, "Have you seen the daughters of men, my brothers? The fire that shines in their eyes. Even God trembled when creating that fire. I want to understand that fire, to merge with it, to unlock its secret. But this is forbidden to us." The reply came from Azazel, "Prohibition only stops the coward. We are bearers of knowledge. If we cannot understand this species, how shall we protect the sky?" And 200 Watchers gathered on the peak of Mount Hermon. That night, the stars did not go out, but they wept. The Watchers swore an oath, not in the name of God, but in their own names. "We shall descend. We shall unite with them, and from them a new race will be born, the child of light and soil." In that very moment, heaven fell silent, for a legion of angels had defied the law of their Creator. The Watchers shed their bodies of light and descended to earth. Light met soil. The sky became flesh. For the first time, an angel felt a heartbeat. For the first time, a star tasted the warmth of blood. The women of man saw these beings as the sons of light. The power blazing in their eyes intoxicated the mind, and they united. The children born of that union were called the Nephilim. They were like giants. Their eyes blazed with fire. Their steps shook the earth. But a conflict raged within them. One part belonged to the heavens, the other part to the mud, and for that reason, they belonged nowhere. Azazel taught humans how to forge iron and make weapons. Semjaza whispered the secrets of sorcery. Sariel explained the language of the stars. And humanity suddenly changed, rapidly. The earth was wounded, cities were built, war began. Women learned to adorn themselves. Men took up arms. And when the sky looked at its own reflection, it no longer saw man. It saw its own fallen state. The Watchers thought they had brought wisdom, but instead, they had placed fire in human hands. And that fire, both illuminated and began to burn. The sky was silent, but God was not. Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel were summoned to the throne. And the Lord said, "The earth is filled with blood. The Watchers have forgotten their own law. They have defiled the light. Now they too shall be chained beneath the earth." Semjaza was bound. Azazel was buried beneath a dark desert. And God looked upon their children, the Nephilim, giant, proud, and thirsting for blood. This world will not be theirs. And the preparations for a great flood began. The fall of the Nephilim was not just a rebellion, it was a lesson, because man misused the knowledge from the angels, and the angels could not withstand the fire of man. One side burned with knowledge, the other side burned with passion, and both made the same mistake. They forgot the boundary. The fall was not truly a punishment, but a reminder. Knowledge without a heart gives no light. Power without mercy turns to darkness. They say strange echoes are still heard on those mountains today. The wind sometimes carries a whisper. We are still watching. The line of the Nephilim may be gone, but the knowledge they carried is still inside humanity, because we are both their curse and their inheritance. Our mind belongs to the heavens, our body belongs to the earth, and these two forces continue to war within us. Who knows? Perhaps humanity's desire to become God is the echo of that first fall. The sky was once innocent. Angels did not burn with knowledge, for they did not know passion. But when they saw humanity, for the first time, even God was envious. And on that day, the gates of heaven closed forever. Because what fell from the sky was not just the angels, it was light itself. And that light, when it descended to earth, found that which was not of itself, dust. Man was born from the dust of the earth, the watchers from the light of the stars. And when those two origins united in the shadow of Mount Hermon, the universe witnessed for the first time a hybrid being, neither fully spirit nor fully flesh, belonging neither to the heavens nor to the earth. This new species was a possibility that not even God had accounted for. They were giants, the ancient texts write, the heroes of old, men of renown. But there was a point on which the holy books remained silent. Why did these giants exist? And why were they not part of God's plan? The answer is hidden in creation's darkest secret. When light touches matter, the flaw is born. When the watchers united with human women, the children born were unlike any creature on earth. Their first cries were not the wail of a baby, but the sound of thunder. When they grew, their steps shook the mountains. Their eyes pierced the sky. They were the Nephilim, literally the fallen ones. But they were not the only ones who fell. The purity of heaven, the balance of the earth, even the silence of God had also fallen. Some worshipped them, some feared them, but all knew they were divine. The Nephilim taught humans agriculture, architecture, the order of the stars. They measured the sun, they shaped the stones, and the first temples were built in their names. Stone was no longer just stone. Stone was a form of remembrance, the trace left by the sky upon the earth. The world was different in that age. The seas were lower, the mountains younger, and the Nephilim became the masters of this new world. Their names were carried on the wind: Og, Anak, Nimrod. Each was a king of an era, the beginning of a legend. In Sumerian tablets, the gods who descended from the sky are called the Anunnaki. They too brought knowledge to humanity, mined the ores, and fathered kings. Some researchers say the Anunnaki and the Nephilim are the same lineage. It is different cultures, describing the same fall with different words. In Egypt, this line was known as the children of the gods, half human, half god pharaohs. Their eyes shone with the light of Ra, but their hearts were mortal. In Greek mythology, the same theme repeats: the Gigantes, the race of giants, beings who opposed the gods but were born of divine power. All are echoes of the same story. God created something in his own image, but that something was not afraid of God. Azazel had taught humans iron, Semjaza, sorcery, but some watchers gave far deeper secrets: the movement of the stars, the vibration of sound, the memory of stones. And the Nephilim, using this knowledge, established the first energy centers: stone circles like Göbeklitepe, giant structures like the pyramids of Egypt. It is said they were all built with this knowledge. These temples were not made for prayer, but for connection. The line between sky and earth passed through those structures. The angle of a stone, the direction of a pillar, the shadow of a doorway, all were part of a divine geometry. But as knowledge grew, so too did power, and power always gives birth to pride. The Nephilim demanded that humans worship them, and humans worshiped them as gods. In that moment, wisdom became idolatry. The light, once again, darkened. The first fall was in the sky. the desire of the angels. The second fall was on the earth, the corruption of knowledge. The Nephilim were no longer teachers, but rulers. They dominated humans, founded cities, declared kingdoms. But as their bodies grew, their spirits shrank. They began to listen, not to the voice of God, but to the voice of their own ego. And one day, one among the humans looked to the sky and said, "These giants are not gods. They too were born from us." That very word began the end of the Nephilim, because from that moment, man learned to question, and gods cannot bear to be questioned. History forgot, but the world did not. Whenever a mountain collapsed, a legend was born. Whenever a flood washed in, an age was erased. War broke out among the Nephilim. Brother turned against brother, kings devoured one another, and the sky once more was set ablaze. Some texts say, God sent the flood not for the sin of man, but for the sin of the Nephilim, because they had drenched the earth in blood. They had declared themselves gods and enslaved humanity. The voice of God echoed once more. Among my creations, only one now resembles me, the one that disobeys. And in that moment, the fate of the waters was sealed. God, perhaps for the first time, realized he had erred, because free will, in passing from angel to man, had ignited an uncontrollable spark. The Nephilim were the greatest paradox God had ever created, a wisdom born from prohibition. In a philosophical sense, the Nephilim are a preview of humanity's own destiny. We long to attain knowledge, but we cannot carry it. We learn the meaning of power, but we are corrupted by it. The story of the Nephilim is an allegory for man's internal war against the God within himself. To put it in mystical terms, the demon inside man was born from the angel. According to some legends, before the flood, some Nephilim escaped, scattering to different lands, some to the north, some to the east, and some to the west. Wherever they went, the same trace remained: massive stones, sacred mountains, temples aligned with the stars. In Central America, the Mayans speak of tall, pale gods who descended from the sky. In India, the Devas and the Asuras live out the same conflict. Even in Turkic mythology, the tales of the Light Mother and the First Man are another face of this same echo. All carry the same message. The gods were once among us, but perhaps these gods never left. Perhaps they only changed their form, and we are a species composed of their fallen sparks. Today, when we look at the pyramids, we marvel at the massive lines carved into the stone. But the real question is, who spoke to those stones? Who made that plan? And why? When we still look at the same sky, can we no longer hear that voice? Perhaps the Nephilim are still speaking within us. In every discovery, every war, every invention, they are the echo of humanity's desire to become God. And this desire is the very power that both uplifts and destroys us. They came from the sky. They united with humanity. They defied the gods. And we are their inheritance. In every temple, their voice echoes. On every mountain, their shadow lingers. We are not just the children of the earth. We are the sin of the sky. If this echo touched somewhere deep inside you, if this knowledge resonates within you, join us for the rest of the story, because secrets are only whispered to those who seek them. Subscribe.